Hello readers, I'm the Avid reader and today we're reviewing Conclave, written by Robert Harris in 2016. This is one of the few fiction books by Robert Harris that's not historical fiction, it's completely fictional, it's political fiction. This book is about a hypothetical conclave, an election for the next Catholic Church Pope. And the thing about this book is that I really loved most of it. Like everything except the last 10 pages were amazing. And if it wasn't for the last 10 pages, it may be my favorite Robert Harris book. But the last 10 pages, while they don't ruin the book, they take it down a notch. And this book has a lot of twists and turns, and most of them, except the last one, really work well. And it's a fascinating read about political maneuvering to get elected within the papacy. And as there's an age limit that you have to be under 80 to participate, you have 118 cardinals who participate, so about half of the Catholic Church's cardinals. This election takes place over 3 days, so you have multiple ballots a day. And you have several contenders, and the election voting switches over time, so the front runner is not the same person in each election. I'm basically gonna go through the downfall of the major candidates. The debate with these elections is basically, are we gonna elect a conservative, traditionalist pope or a liberal reformer pope who wants to increase the presence of women in the Catholic Church and wants to be more tolerant towards other religions and gay marriage and things like that, while the traditionalist really wants to return to the era before Vatican II in the 1960s, which liberalized a lot of things in the Catholic Church. Now, the first major candidate that accepts that he's not gonna get elected is Bellini. He's a liberal cardinal, but already at the first ballot, he doesn't even come into the top 2. The next candidate, who's initially a frontrunner but fails to win, is Adeyemi, so he's an African cardinal. And the reason he stops being a frontrunner is that you have a nun who confronts him, and then the main character in this book, Lomeli, confronts the nun, and he learns from her that this cardinal got her pregnant 20 years ago or something like that. And then Lomeli hints at what has happened between Adeyemi and the nun to the other cardinals. So of course they switch the votes and he loses his chance to become the first black pope. And Lomeli, the main character, by the way, is the dean of the College of Cardinals or Bishops or whatever that's called. He's the one in charge of the election, of organizing and guiding everything, with the assistance of some other Catholic clergyman. And then there's Tremblay, who, it turns out, after Lomeli investigates the Pope's apartment, has actually bribed some cardinals to get himself elected. So Lomeli organizes a dossier on him with the help of a nun, makes a lot of photocopies of it, and then gives a copy to each cardinal. And then you have this showdown of words between Lomeli and Tremblay. And Tremblay also loses his chance to become pope. In the next election, it has become a showdown between Tedesco, the traditionalist, and Lomeli, who's more of a reformer. But during one of the conclaves, there's a terrorist attack that all of the cardinals can hear. During lunch, Lomeli reveals that there's been multiple terrorist attacks against the Catholic Church throughout Europe. So in Louvain, I think, in Italy, and in Munich. And then you have Benitez, a new cardinal who shows support to Lomeli and basically tells his supporters to vote for Lomeli against Tedesco. And Tedesco gets angry and basically says, we have to return to tradition. This is our battle of Lepanto against Islam. Tedesco causes his own destruction by talking too much and getting too angry. So then the next conclave comes, and Lomeli expects reluctantly that he's gonna become pope and win the election. But it turns out that Benitez wins. And Benitez is a Filipino, which is a surprise and another twist and turn. Now, if the book had ended here, then it would have almost been a perfect read, and it would be among my favorite books of all time. But then the last 10 pages, it's just dumb. What screws up the ending? Well, Lomeli learns from one of the priests that there's documents that showed that Benitez was about to get gender reassignment surgery in Geneva, Switzerland. What this implies basically is that Benitez is not really a biological man. It's not really clear from this book. This character is intersex or trans or whatever. It's weird, and I don't have anything against people like that. However, we're talking about the Catholic Church here, and the Catholic Church has very strict rules about women priests. So that basically means that the church hierarchy in the Catholic Church has to be all biological men. Now, you don't necessarily have to agree with this rule by the Catholics, and there are plenty of other Christian denominations, plenty of Protestants, who allow women priests. Still, it's a fundamental rule and tradition to Catholicism that the church hierarchy is dominated by biological men. And here's the thing, the previous pope in this book appointed Benitez as a cardinal in secret. And it's said explicitly that the Pope knew about the condition of Benitez. So Benitez, while not really a man, has basically lived all his life as a man, as he looks like one, although he's not really. It's a weird ending. There's a brief interview in this book right after the end of this book with Robert Harris, and he basically says there were hints throughout this book of this, which is true, since there were references in this book of increasing the influence of women within the Catholic Church. But still, you can do that in a gradual way. If this book had started out with the election of a pope, and then he decided that we're gonna have women priests, and then from there we can have a woman pope, that would have been plausible. But this is not. This is just ridiculous. I'm sorry. This ending is ridiculous. So, how would I rate Conclave by Robert Harris? I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. If it wasn't for the ending, it would get a 10 out of 10, but I'm drawing off 1 point from it. But even though I don't like the ending, the rest of the book is just so good that it still deserves a 9 out of 10. The political maneuvering, the machinery in the election is fascinating. You get to see how the church hierarchy kind of works during the election. You get to see a lot of different cardinals who have a lot of different opinions. You get to see the role of nuns. So most of the book is a fascinating and thrilling read. It's just I really don't like the ending, because the Pope, for now at least, ought to be a biological man. That's the rules, and this book goes against this. It's fiction, so sure, this is not supposed to be accurate, but still I just think the ending is ludicrous. The rest of the book is almost perfect, but the ending isn't. The ending is just bad. So, should you read Conclave? Yes. It's still a great book. Of the 10 novels by Robert Harris I've read, I would say this is the third best one. If you want to learn about the Catholic Church hierarchy and the disagreements between different cardinals, then you should read this book. And that's maybe a bit relevant today, since the current Pope has created a lot of disagreement and discord within the Catholic Church recently. So 9 out of 10, although I don't like the ending, still a great book. And if you want to learn about another book by Robert Harris with religious people, then I would recommend you to check out my book review of Act of Oblivion, which is an amazing book about two people fleeing justice for having cut off the head of the English king after the English Civil War. Anyways, I'm the Avid Reader, and I will see readers next time.